Hello, y'all. My name is Dan Nietzsche. I am not the historical philosopher Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, and I will not be representing his views. But I am very broadly a Nietzschean thinker, and Nietzscheanism, broadly construed as a modern philosophy, has changed my life, and I believe it can change yours as well. Now, this is an interactive video, so what I'm going to ask you to do is pause the video at certain points and write some things down. I'm going to keep talking, but it's on you to pause the video and do this work, all right? So let's get into it. First, I'm going to ask you a question which I call question 0. And what I'd like you to do is, in a moment, pause the video and write just a few sentences about your dream life. Now, this is not your dream life if you won the lottery or grew a foot taller or something supernatural happened, but your dream life if everything for you in your life went exactly right. If you were the very best version of yourself, performed at the peak of your potential, and made all the right choices. So pause the video and write a couple sentences about your dream life. All right, welcome back. Now, what I'd like you to do is get a calculator, or use the calculator on your phone, as I suspect is the most natural thing to do, and give me a few numbers, okay? So question 1. I would like you to go back to the last week of your life. So whatever day you're watching this video, go back exactly 1 week ago. And I would like you to estimate, calculate as accurately as you can, the total number of hours in the last week of your life spent on or invested in relationships. Relationships. Husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, kids, friends. You get the idea. All right. If you've got that number, obviously take your time, pause the video. I'm going to ask you question 2. Question 2. I'd like you to, again, go back the last week of your life, exactly 1 week ago, and calculate or estimate the total number of hours in the last week of your life spent on or invested in entertainment. Entertainment. TV, movies, video games, TikTok, social media. You get the idea. You know what entertainment is. Give me a number. All right? Now, question 3. I'd like you to calculate or estimate the total number of hours in the last week of your life spent on or invested in religion or spirituality. Religion or spirituality. So time attending religious services, prayer, reading religious texts, very generally. For some people this number will be high, for some it will obviously be 0. Doesn't matter, write it down. All right. 4. I would like you to take your figures from 1, 2, and 3 and add them up. Okay, add those 3 numbers up and put them, that's your answer to number 4. 5. I would like you to take that figure from 4, whatever that number is, and double it. Double that number. That is your answer in number 5. I was doing this with a class a couple weeks ago, and there's a stoner guy in the back, and I asked him to double it, and he said, double it by what? He was feeling no pain. Okay, question 6. Take your figure from number 5, okay, and multiply it by 100. Just add 2 zeros. All right? If you need to go back through those steps for review, that's fine. Okay. Now, number 7, okay, that's just going to be whatever number you had there. That is your final figure. That's we're going to call that your final figure, okay? So if you're still watching at this point, I'm operating on the assumption that you have your final figure. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to ask you to share it. All good, okay? Now, assuming, and I know it's a big assumption, maybe just plainly false in some cases, but in the vast majority of cases it's accurate. Assuming that the last week of your life is roughly representative of the way your life has gone over the last season or 2 of your life, your final figure is the total number of hours in the last 4 years of your life that you have spent doing things that contribute nothing to the accomplishment of your dream life as described in question 0. It is what I'm going to call the dead weight in your life. It's the total amount of time that you have, very respectfully, wasted. Now, the obvious response to this is, well, Dan Nietzsche, you asked me to dream big and describe my dream life. That's not something I'm going to accomplish anyway. I have a number of backups with which I am very, very comfortable, very happy. If I don't have, that, I'm fine. I never was really shooting for that anyway. It's not realistic. And that is exactly the assumption that I want to take just a few moments of your time to completely destroy. So let's start small. Imagine with me, if you will, that you had spent every day for the last year just 1 hour a day reading books. You would, by this point, have read roughly 60 books. That's a pretty impressive collection of books. Suppose that every day for the last year you had spent or invested 1 hour a day learning a foreign language. You would by this point be able to speak that language. You could go to the country where it's spoken and get around just fine. Supposing you had spent or invested every day for the last year 1 hour a day learning an instrument. You would now be able to play that instrument pretty well. You could play an impressive repertoire of songs on that instrument. Now let's change it a little bit here. Let's say, and stick with me, that you had spent or invested not 1 hour a day, but 8 hours a day on these pursuits. Now we're not talking about you having another ability or having another cool thing that you can do. We're starting to talk now in terms of you being a higher quality or caliber of human being. So let's start with the books. Supposing you had spent or invested 8 hours a day, every day for the last year, reading. You would now have graduate level mastery, graduate level knowledge of whatever field you decided to work in. You would be incredibly well read. I say this as somebody who has lots of friends and family indeed who are in higher education. Supposing you had spent or invested 8 hours a day every day for the past year working on your knowledge of a language. Not only would you be fluent in that language, able to earn money as a translator, able to earn, if it is a high in-demand language like Arabic or Mandarin, some prestige or high-paying job at least for which that language is required, but you would be able to pick up multiple languages pretty effectively in that time. Supposing you had spent or invested every day for the last year 8 hours a day developing your ability with an instrument. You would now be able to play that instrument as well, I should think, as anyone you know plays any instrument. You would be able to pick up multiple instruments in that time. And if it is your dream to be any kind of an artist or musician, earn money that way. Supposing you had spent, just playing with this here, supposing you had spent or invested 8 hours a day every day for the last year developing your knowledge of startups, stocks, crypto, investing, whatever. Where would you be? Difficult to say. Obviously, the markets are notoriously volatile. Most ideas flop. But you would have an enormous number of hours of knowledge in the area of human life that has to do with acquiring, developing, curating, and growing wealth. That's something you would have on almost everyone you know. And as somebody who has lived a long time, the people I know who are smart, who have dedicated that kind of time to becoming rich, have all ended up rich. If they dedicate that kind of time, that's where they are. Now, the obvious response to this is, well, yeah, Dan, look, I get it. I would love to drop everything and just work on my hobbies or reading or developing my potential, but I got this little thing called school, right? You may be familiar with it, and this thing called work, and I can't just do that. It's a fantasy. No. This is where the final figure comes in. See, the final figure that you wrote down represents time dedicated to entertainment, relationships, and religion. It doesn't touch school. It doesn't touch work. So you could still, in principle, dedicate all the time that you currently dedicate to school, and all the time you currently dedicate to work, and still have all the time in your final figure left over to developing your raw potential, to becoming great in this way. Okay, I'm going to make reference to some numbers here. All right. So assuming, and I know this is a big assumption, so I'll pause for laughter like a good comedian after I say this. Assuming you sleep 8 full hours every night, okay, a full waking year of your life is 5,840 hours. A full waking year, okay? So you're comparing this to your final figure, okay? A year and a half, a full 1.5 waking years of your life is 8,760 hours. 2 years is 11,680 hours. And 2.5 waking years of your life is 14,600 hours. Compare this to your final figure. How many full waking years of your life do you have represented in that final figure? How many full waking years of your life of dead weight do you have that could be reallocated? But remember the 8-hour test. Remember how different you could be if you dedicated 8 hours. Okay? To find out how many years of 8 hours a day, all we need to do is double the figures I just gave you. Do you see? So 5,840 is 2 years of 8 hours a day on whatever pursuit. 8,760 is 3 years of 8 hours a day on whatever pursuit. 11,680 is 4 years, and 14,600, and again I don't know your number, is 5 years that you could already have spent of 8 hours a day on whatever pursuit developing your raw potential. You really, truly could become great. Greatness is a choice. It is not a matter of coincidence, luck, or chance. It is something that you can choose. It consists in choices that you can make today. And I'm not just kind of doctoring the numbers here, right? This is like real people. I know people that have done this, and because this is a public YouTube video, I can't give their names. Occasionally, with their permission, I'll share their stories in class, but it's people that I know that have done this. Think of how good you could be if you took a fraction of the dead weight in your life and reallocated it to developing your raw potential, to becoming great. Think of where you could be. And many of you are extremely young, right? Think of where you could be by the time you're 25, 30, my age. You really, truly could become great. Your dream life, and here's the point, is not a dream. So the Nietzsche challenge, such as it is to drop the dead weight in your life. Drop this dead weight and reallocate it to developing your own potential and becoming great. All right, now even as I've been speaking, you've been thinking of reasons that this isn't going to work for you, that this Nietzsche challenge is not for you. So what I'd like to do is, in the next video, take a few of those objections, just a few, and completely destroy them. See you on the other side.